The issue with the normal review is that if I were to tell you a game is a 1 out of 10, you would never touch it in your life ever. But what if I told you that a game was a 1 out of 10, but the experience was unforgettable? That's what Does It Hold Up aims to accomplish. Are these games actually worth your time, regardless of how good or bad they are? And with that out of the way, the first and arguably most important game that we'll discuss on this entire show is Ben 10, Protector of Earth. Why is this game important? Well, firstly, it sets your expectations really, really low. But the second thing is that this is actually one of the first games that little James beat on his own. So alongside the nostalgia and potential heartbreak from realizing that this game is probably not that good, I felt like it was important for me to share with you where my gamer beginnings were. The story goes something like this. A tiny robot bug, which we literally never see again, sucks the data out of Ben's Omnitrix while he's sleeping. The following morning, something crash lands near the RV. Oh shit. The Tennysons naturally want to figure out what crash landed, but when Ben goes to use his Omnitrix, he realizes he only has access to Forearms and Heat Blast. Immediately after starting the first level, you encounter your first enemy. There are a few interesting things to point out here. First, whenever you encounter a new type of enemy, you're given a brief description of them by your grandpa, and even shown a stats sheet, which is surprisingly accurate. But the more important thing here is that upon entering combat for the first time, it becomes abundantly clear that your attacks do not lock onto enemies. I don't know if this is only a thing on the hardest difficulty, but either way, it was super annoying and it just genuinely doesn't work well for this style of combat. There is a combo system in the game, which is actually pretty cool. Enemies will drop these yellow orbs when they die, and if you collect enough of them, you can unlock a new combo for one of your forms. As you exit into the final area of the level, you're greeted with our first boss fight. Here, I would unknowingly make use of my new favorite technique in all of gaming, which we will circle back to. During this fight, the game also decides to tell you for the first time that you can block. Now, if you're anything like me, you're probably wondering why they tell you this now and not earlier in the level, because there's no way that you can block an attack from... Oh, as it turns out, this is maybe the most effective block in all of gaming, and until we find something to dethrone it, I am placing it at the #1 spot. After defeating the boss, Ben finds a piece of the Omnitrix which restores his ability to use Accelerate. Unfortunately, outside of needing him for the occasional puzzle, there really is no reason to play as Accelerate during a casual playthrough, so you won't be seeing a lot of him in this video. The second level takes you to this ruined area, where you'll feel really good about finding the secret, only to discover that you can't use it yet.
I don't think you use this till later, though.
Well, after that, you head on over to Area 51, which was unexpected, but cool. At the end of this level, you encounter Enoch. This boss fight was super important to my playthrough because it was the first time that I died. You see, the unfortunate thing about Ben 10 Protector of Earth is that once you get knocked down, you're still vulnerable to attacks. And on the harder difficulties, this can and will kill you. What makes this even worse is that once you die, you start the boss fight from the very beginning. And what's even worse than that is that you can't skip the cutscenes before boss fights. I was so ready for this fight with Enoch to be both frustrating and time-consuming. But this is where it happened. The rocks do an absurd amount of damage to the bosses. That's right, friends. Throwing rocks at your enemies does a lot of damage. It's actually the technique that they use in speedruns for the early bosses, and I love that so much. After beating Enoch, he manages to escape because you just sort of let him, but it doesn't really matter to the story at all because you fight him immediately after. What does matter is that once you've survived this absolutely atrocious fight, you unlock Cannonbolt, who is not only useful, but is also one of the most fun characters in the entire game. I started walking really slowly during the fight, and I realized that you can walk around like this. And I think it's really funny. Cannonbolt can use these ramps whenever they pop up, but the game still puts arguably too much control in your hands. If your angle is even off a little bit, there's a good chance that you're just gonna fall. It's here that I must issue a confusion warning. I promise that I'm giving you just about the same amount of context that the entire game's story would for this part. After you defeat Enoch, the next level is a wave survival level. All you have to do is beat up all the bad guys. Simple to understand, easy to follow, we're all with it, cool. So in the intro cutscene for the level after that, Kevin 11 jumps through a portal. Alright, so you probably fight Kevin in this level, right? No. After this level, you chase after your grandpa into the woods because he decided to chase Kevin by himself into the woods. So you find your grandpa, you beat up Kevin, and then you head to Seattle because there's a giant sentient plant with 20 eyeballs on top of the Space Needle. So you beat up the plant, and now you gain access to your final alien, Wildvine, who just sucks. He's only useful for doing the things you're required to do with him, and that's it. Oh, and Vilgax is working with this ghost guy whose name is Ghost Freak. After making it through that, it leads into a level that's sort of in the woods again. It's more like you're on a trail in a park. I don't really know how to describe it. This level is only memorable for the unexpected turn it takes at the end, where Ben goes to hell. And if you're thinking he's lying, there's no way that happens. You're right. Ben actually gets transported underground, and then he makes his way through the underground until he gets to hell. You then fight this dude named Hex, and by fight, I mean throw rocks at. But it turns out that it wasn't Hex. It was actually Ghost Freak the whole time. This shocks the Tennysons, because Ghost Freak was supposed to be locked in an alternate dimension called the Null Void. So upon seeing him, you head to a secret base where the Null Void projector is supposed to be. Spoiler alert, it's not there. As the little cherry on top, this level is frustrating because the majority of it takes place in these congested areas, which are really annoying to fight in. But it's saved by being inside of Mount Rushmore. You can even break the noses off of some of the faces, which is cool. The next few levels literally do not matter. You just chase after Ghost Freak until you inevitably catch him. I do actually want to talk about this boss fight with Ghost Freak because it is the second most unique fight in the game. For phase 1, Ghost Freak takes over the bodies of different enemies. You have to knock them out and then open a curtain to shine light on Ghost Freak. And as of right now, this is the only way that you can hurt him. I know that sounds pretty lackluster so far, but please let me have this. After you get him to half health, you go into this bottom room where you have to solve the Earth Temple Mirror Shield puzzle from the Wind Waker before you can fight him again. Now you can finally punch him. But why would you do that if you could throw rocks instead? After beating Ghost Freak, you get another Omnitrix Crystal, except this time, instead of unlocking a new alien, you gain the ability to switch directly between forms, which is more helpful for my sanity than anything else. The following level marks an interesting point in the game. It's what we call the point of no return. You could argue that it happened earlier, but around this point is when I really started to feel it. The combat in this game is not good, and being subjected to it for extended periods of time is boring. There's a reason why I've been glossing over all of the wave survival levels, and it's because they aren't fun. Somewhere around this point in the game, every fight turns into a miniature wave survival level, and if I don't find a new strategy to deal with this, I am not going to finish the game. At the end of whatever level this is, Gwen gets kidnapped by Dr. Animo. This, again, is a part of the story I have no explanation for. After Gwen gets kidnapped, you chase after Clancy. Clancy has not shown up or been mentioned once in the entire game up until this point, yet somehow you know that he's involved and you also know exactly where to find him. After beating Clancy, you chase after Dr. Animo until you eventually fight him. The boss fight is basically just quick time events. It sucks, but after you beat Animo, you rescue Gwen and magically gain an upgrade to your Omnitrix. I didn't really know how to bring this up earlier, but apart from the combat already sucking, what made it even more unbearable is that using combos depleted the energy in your Omnitrix, which meant that you'd eventually be forced to switch back to Ben at some point during most fights. But as I wisely point out here, this upgrade solves that. Oh my god. My combos no longer deplete my stuff. This upgrade is genuinely a game changer, but I didn't know how to get the most out of it until I discovered that Heat Blast could do this with virtually no negative repercussions. You could argue that this upgrade makes the game way too easy and that I'm abusing the ability to do this. And you'd be 100% correct. I could skip straight to the final boss from here, but I feel as though it'd be a disservice not to talk about the fight with 6-6. Not just because I chose to throw rocks at him, but because during my playthrough, the audio bugged, so the entirety of the boss fight was completely silent.
I don't like how this boss has no sound effects.
Alright, it's time for the final level. You use the RV as a rocket ship. The final boss fight does have some redeeming qualities, and it is by far the most unique out of all of them. My favorite section is this one where Vilgax flies into the air, and then you have to use Cannon Bolt to bounce on his head in order to hit him again. It's cool, it's funny. They even let you bounce on his head multiple times if you aim it well enough. They didn't have to do that, it's just a cool detail. The only thing I didn't like about this fight is the final phase where you're forced to use Wild Vine. You have to jump up, swing above the wave of damage on the ground, then hit Vilgax mid-air. This section is frustrating for a few reasons. To start, accurately swinging from a rope in a 3D space with a top-down camera is hard. Second, as mentioned at the beginning of this episode, your attacks do not lock on to enemies. And last but certainly not least, Vilgax does a lot of damage during this phase, and most of it can't be blocked.
Wicked awesome!
Wicked awesome indeed, Ben. Wicked awesome indeed. I have never felt more relieved that a game is over.
Now comes the portion where I actually have to rank Ben 10 Protector of Earth, and it's actually a bit challenging. It should be no surprise that I didn't enjoy this game. You could say it's for kids. You could say it's only for Ben 10 fans. None of those things matter. A game designed for anyone should be enjoyable by anyone. And unfortunately, Ben 10 Protector of Earth did not fall close enough to my enjoyment line. My review of this game in 2023 is a 3.5 out of 10, but that's not really the point of this series. It doesn't matter if a game is good or bad or somewhere in between, because sometimes awful experiences are worth experiencing. Don't play this game.